Unique stories that define our state's character. Here's Kevin Mackey with your Montana Moment. Sponsored by Montana Chevy Dealers.
Be present in everything you do. Listen. Make connections with friends and strangers. Be active. Have fun. For years, a now retired Catholic priest has been doing just that, living his faith and reaching out to a community he helped build. Kevin Mackey sat down with Father James Hogan soon after his 90th birthday. In our Montana Moment, a gifted life.
Father Jim Hogan stands on his balcony where he can see all over Missoula. It's a view he never tires of.
Well, it's Mount Sentinel.
Through the years, anybody who ever climbed Mount Sentinel probably ran into Father Jim. For a number of years, he hiked to the M just about every day.
It just kept my vessels all pumping pretty well.
He served in several parishes in Montana, but most of his time as a priest has been in Missoula. Missoula gave him a gift.
Well, what has it given me? A strong sense of personal identity as a Catholic priest.
Jim Hogan was born and raised in Anaconda. He credits his parents for a strong upbringing.
We'd go camping, we'd be fishing, hunting, and all those things that I really appreciated a lot. But none of them had to do with being a priest, except that I learned how to integrate them eventually.
His dad worked at the smelter. As a young man, so did Jim.
And that was very formative. I mean, I learned levels of English language that I never knew about before when I was working with some of these guys.
As a kid, he says he never thought about becoming a priest.
All at 15, I wanted to do was play basketball.
The lanky 6'4" Hogan would play basketball for Carroll College.
And at 20, I was more determined to play basketball, and then eventually made my shift over to study theology.
He graduated from Carroll and studied theology for 3 years in Seattle. But after all that study, he decided he didn't want to become a priest.
And I didn't want to live a life like I saw them living. Lonely, not men of prayer.
That summer, he met with his dad and his coach, Father Raymond Hunthausen, who would later become the bishop of the Diocese of Helena and Archbishop of Seattle.
They were both men of faith, and they lived it in their daily life. You know, it was not piety, it was just real living of what it is to be a Christian.
He says Father Hunthausen, or Dutch, gave him solid advice.
Just be unique, follow your own calls.
And so he became a priest on his own terms.
Right off, I was early on a duck out of water. And I've tried to live that way all my life.
NBC Montana met with Father Jim's longtime friends, Gary and Judy Hughes, and their friend, Marilyn Ryan. Marilyn is Father Jim's cousin.
If you know Father Jim at all, you've been hugged. He was a hugger.
Marilyn says he challenged people.
A Catholic who ate fish on Friday, went to church on Sunday, and that was your formula to get into heaven. But Jim challenged that and said it's how you treat other people and be active in the church.
He taught you to say, hey, why don't you come and sit with us? And so you'd learn about them and not just stay in your own group.
Gary has been friends with Father Jim for 50 years.
Friend, definitely a spiritual advisor, a challenger.
Gary was a former associate athletic director at the University of Montana. For years, Father Jim was spiritual advisor for the Grizzly football team.
Not a religious spiritual advisor, but he was a advisor to the student athletes prior to a game to respect their opponents, respect themselves. Very moving experience. Any athlete would tell you that went through that era.
Gary and Judy traveled to the Holy Land with Father Jim. Father Hogan made a trip around the world. That's him with a long beard in Tonga. Why'd you go around the world?
I hadn't seen the other side.
In 2000, he was awarded Peacemaker of the Year, sponsored by the Missoula Peace Quilters and Jeanette Rankin Peace Center. Here's Father Hogan's bench at the Missoula Peace Park. As a University of Montana student 42 years ago, Andrea Strizich joined the Newman Center at Christ the King Catholic Church. Father Hogan oversaw that campus youth group.
It was very vibrant, very alive.
Andrea thinks Waterworks Hill is a good place to help tell Jim's story. You get a great view of Missoula and of Mount Sentinel.
You find this creator everywhere and clearly in the earth, and when people are gathering together, when you're sharing a meal, when people are suffering, a tangible experience where that becomes alive within each other, for each other.
Father Hogan says he feels Christ in his bones.
When I am at liturgy and I have a sense of Christ's presence, I think that's to feel that in your bones.
He just celebrated his 90th birthday.
What is 90? It's a mysterious age that somebody told me I've embraced. It means that I've had 90 years of a gifted life.
Father Hogan says what it's really all about is pretty simple. It's about love. Kevin Mackey, NBC Montana.